Welcome to one and all. I am Vasanta, Department of Computer Science, Gopalswamy PU College, Mysore. Today we are going to start with the second session of Constructor and Destructor chapter. Whereas in the first session we explained what do you mean by constructor, what are the rules to write constructor. I am to recall that thing once again. Whereas constructor is a special member function used to initialize the object of a class automatically. If I want to write any constructor, some rules and regulations we have to follow. That rules is class name and function name should be same, should be same, and it should be declared in public section. It does not have any written type specifier, not even word. It is not possible to refer the address of the constructor, and this constructor function will execute automatically when we want to create object of a class. Today I am going to explain regarding the types of constructor. Already you come to know the total weightage of this chapter is 7 marks. Out of 7 marks, 2 marks, 1 question they will ask, that is on part B, and with that 5 marks, 1 question, that is on part D they will ask. Now, when they come on types of constructor, there are 3 types of constructor. When they come on types of constructor, under that we have 3 types. First one, default constructor. Second one, parameterized constructor, and the third one is copy constructor. When they come on types of constructor, there are 3 types. First one, default constructor. Second one, parameterized constructor, and the last one is copy constructor. Today I am to explain regarding default constructor. What do you mean by default constructor, and how to declare and how to write the program by using default constructor. In default constructor, it is a constructor but it does not have any arguments. It does not have any arguments, then it can be called as default constructor. A constructor which is having arguments, that can be called as parameterized constructor. But copy constructor, when you want to copy one object to another object, then we are using copy constructor. Now, default constructor is nothing but a constructor, but here the arguments are 0, or we can call it as 0 argument constructor also. For example, when we are going to write the syntax, while writing the syntax, see, first class name, here insert the bracket. In private section, for example, we have the variable int a. Then in public section, we will declare the constructor function class name, here empty bracket. If you don't have any arguments, then it can be called as default constructor. For example, here I declared a equals 0, then close the constructor function, then next close the class. This is the syntax for default constructor. I am going to write one example also. For example, class add is the class name. In this, in private section, we are declaring the variable, for example, int a, it is optional. Then in public section, we are declaring add only. Here empty bracket. If you have empty bracket on the function, then it can be called as default constructor. Here we are initialize a equals 0, close the constructor function, then close the class. See, this is the example to declare default constructor. In this also we have advantage as well as disadvantage. If you don't have any arguments, if you have arguments here, then it can be called as parameterized constructor. If you don't have any arguments, if it is empty, then it can be called as default constructor. In this also, this function also execute automatically when you want to create object of a class. And here main advantage, when we come on advantages, there are several advantages as well as disadvantages here. When we come on advantages, all the object of a class will initialize by same set of values. For example, in this I am going to create one object or 2 objects. For example, class name, object. 1 I'm to write, and one more object I'm to create, object 2. All the objects of a class are initialized by same set of values in default constructor. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಅಥವಾ ಎರಡು ಎಷ್ಟು ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೂ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯುಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕೊಡ್ಬೋದು. ಎಲ್ಲ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯುಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ನ ಕೊಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಆ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ಗೂ ಎಲ್ಲದಕ್ಕೂ ಕೂಡ ಸೇಮ್ ಸೆಟ್ ಆಫ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ಇನಿಷಿಯಲೈಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ 1ಗೂ ಕೂಡ a = 0 ಅಂತ ಇನಿಷಿಯಲೈಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ 2ಗೂ ಕೂಡ a = 0 ಅಂತ ಇನಿಷಿಯಲೈಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಹಿಯರ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ, ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ add, here I am creating object 1 comma object 2 comma object 3. In this case we have totally 3 objects. All the 3 objects are initialized with the same set of values, that is a = 0. ಇದು ಮೂರು ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ a = 0 ಅಂತಾನೆ ಇನಿಷಿಯಲೈಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. In default constructor, it is mainly used when you want to initialize all the objects by same set of values. On that time, we are using this default constructor. And this one, it will going to execute automatically when we are going to create object of a class. No need to call this function separately. That is the advantage. When the command definition, it is also call it as 0 argument. It does not have any arguments. Then it can be called it as a constructor which does not have any argument. That can be called as default constructor or 0 argument constructor. But when they come on advantages, there are several types of advantages in this. On that, the first main advantage is, here it is mainly used when you want to initialize all the objects by the same set of values, then this default constructor can be used. And here it will execute automatically when we are going to create object of a class. But when they come on disadvantages, this cannot be used. This default constructor cannot be used when you want to initialize all the objects with the same set, or we can say it as this default constructor cannot be used when you want to initialize each object by different set of values. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಡಿಫಾಲ್ಟ್ ಕನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಟರ್ ನ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕಾಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಪ್ರತಿ ಒಂದು ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಗೂ ಕೂಡ ನಾವು ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ನ ಇನಿಷಿಯಲೈಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋ ಕೇಸಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಡಿಫಾಲ್ಟ್ ಕನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಟರ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. This default constructor cannot be used when you want to initialize each object by different set of values. This is the disadvantage. Definition is, here the constructor which does not have any arguments, that can be called as default constructor. When the common advantages, all this can be used when you want to initialize all the objects by the same set of values, and this will automatically execute when you are going to create object of a class. When they come on disadvantages, main disadvantages, this cannot be used when you want to initialize each object by different set of values. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ಡಿಫಾಲ್ಟ್ ಕನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಟರ್ ಯಾವಾಗ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಪ್ರತಿ ಒಂದು ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಗೂ ನಾವು ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ನ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನುವಾಗ ಈ ಡಿಫಾಲ್ಟ್ ಕನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಟರ್ ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. Now we have to explain with one example program how to write a program by using default constructor. Already you come to know what do you mean by constructor as well as default constructor. Write a program to display the value a and b using default constructor. Consider, I want to write a program to display the value of a and b using default constructor. For example, I am to start with the header file as include iostream.h. This is the supporting header file for cin as well as cout function. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ cin cout ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ಹೆಡರ್ ಫೈಲ್ ಇರಬೇಕು. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ as include conio.h. This is the supporting header file for clear screen as well as getch function. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನ್ ಮತ್ತೆ getch ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಈ ಹೆಡರ್ ಫೈಲ್ ಇರಬೇಕು. Next, one more header file here I am declaring as include iomanip.h header file. iomanip.h ಹೆಡರ್ ಫೈಲ್ ಯಾತಕ್ಕೆ ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಸೆಟ್ ಡಬ್ಲ್ಯೂ ಸೆಟ್ ಪ್ರಿಸಿಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಿದ್ರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಈ ಹೆಡರ್ ಫೈಲ್ ಬೇಕಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೆಟ್ ಡಬ್ಲ್ಯೂ ಸೆಟ್ ಪ್ರಿಸಿಷನ್, ಫಾರ್ ದಟ್ ವಿ ರಿಕ್ವೈರ್ ದಿಸ್ ಹೆಡರ್ ಫೈಲ್. ನಾವೇನಾದ್ರೂ ಸೆಟ್ ಡಬ್ಲ್ಯೂ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಅನ್ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ iomanip.h ಹೆಡರ್ ಫೈಲ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಪ್ರೋಟೋಟೈಪ್ ಮಿಸ್ಸಿಂಗ್ ಅಂತ ಎರರ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಟು ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ವಿತ್ ದ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್. ಹಿಯರ್ class, I want to display the numbers. That's why I'm going to take it as class name is number. Class name I'm going to take it as number. In this, in private section, we are declaring the variables int a comma b. Two variables we are declaring. These two variables of type integer format. Next, in public section, we are declaring the function. Where if I want to declare a constructor function, class name and function name should be same. Here I am to write number only. This is a function name number. Empty bracket here I am declaring. Empty bracket and takshana it is a default constructor. Here we are initializing, that is a equals 10. For example, b equals 20. We'll close this function. When I want to write any constructor, what is the rules? Class name and function name should be same. It should be declared in public section. It does not have any return type specifier, not even void also. Next, I am to write with the regular function. I want to display the value. That's why void display function. I am just want to display the value of a and b. Then here I am to write inside the class only I am writing the statement. That's why don't put semicolon here. What I want to display? What is the value? Cout, insertion operator, a and b value equals. Display the value. That is insertion operator, a value it will display. After that, we want to display b value, but in between we need some space. ಆ ಸ್ಪೇಸ್ ಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಸೆಟ್ ಡಬ್ಲ್ಯೂ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಅನ್ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಇನ್ಸರ್ಷನ್ ಆಪರೇಟರ್ ಸೆಟ್ ಡಬ್ಲ್ಯೂ ಇನ್ಸೈಡ್ ದ ಬ್ರಾಕೆಟ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಟು ರೈಟ್ 5 ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಎ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಡಿಸ್ಪ್ಲೇ ಆದ ತಕ್ಷಣ 5 ಸ್ಪೇಸ್ ಕೊಡು. ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲಿ 10 ಅಂತ ಕೊಟ್ರೆ ಇನ್ ಬಿಟ್ವೀನ್ 10 ಸ್ಪೇಸ್ ಕೊಡು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳುತ್ತೆ. ಈ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ iomanip.h ಹೆಡರ್ ಫೈಲ್ ಇರಬೇಕು. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಡಿಸ್ಪ್ಲೇ ದ ಬಿ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಆಲ್ಸೋ b. Then close the function. From this, in this we had two functions. One is constructor function and one more is regular function. But still we are not at all close with the class. To close the class, put flower bracket, then put semicolon. From that I can able to close the class. Here class name, function name are same. Totally two functions are there. One is number function and one more is display function. This is default constructor because it does not have any arguments. Next I am to write the main program. Void main. Here create the object. How to create the object? First I have to take the class name. The class name here we are given as number object 1. For example, here I am to take two object 1 comma object 2. In this we have two object. If you want you can write one object also. When I am to write this line, then by default, by itself, implicitly it will call this number function. No need to call this function separately. When we want to create the object of a class, automatically this constructor function it will going to execute. And the object 1 ಮತ್ತೆ object 2 ಎರಡರಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ a ಗೆ 10 ಅಂತ ಇನಿಷಿಯಲೈಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, b ಗೆ 20 ಅಂತ ಇನಿಷಿಯಲೈಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ನೀವು object 1 ಮೂಲಕ ಕಾಲ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಸೇಮ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, object 2 ಮೂಲಕ ಕಾಲ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಸೇಮ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸೇ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. Then display the values. Before that, clear screen clr scr clear screen function. ಈ clear screen ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಮಗೆ conio.h ಹೆಡರ್ ಫೈಲ್ ಇರಬೇಕು. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಡಿಸ್ಪ್ಲೇ ಕಾಲ್ ದ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ object 1 dot I'm going to call the function display function. In display function what we have, a and b value equals, display the a value, then leave 5 space, then display the b value. Then here through object 1 I am calling the function. That means a and b value equals 10, then 20 it will go to display. Next I have through the help of object 2 also I am to call the function display function. In this also it will display the value a and b is 10 and 20. Get ch close the main program which you have opened. Now it's clear. It means that the main thing in default constructor, all the object of a class are initialized by the same set of values. ನಮಗೆ ಔಟ್ಪುಟ್ ಏನಂತ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ object 1.display ಅಂತ ಕೊಟ್ಟ ತಕ್ಷಣ a and b value equals 10 and 20 ಅಂತ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. Then with the help of object 2 also I am going to calling the same function display only. Then also it will display a and b value equals 10 and 20 only, because all the objects are initialized by the same set of values. This is regarding your default constructor. Once again I am to recall all the things. Whereas constructor is nothing but it is a special member function used to initialize the object of a class automatically. It is mainly used for initialization purpose. If I want to write any constructor, some rules and regulations we have to follow. The first rule is class name and function name should be same. Second point, it should be declared in public section. Third point, it does not have any return type specifier, not even void also. ಈಗ ಇದನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ನಾವು ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಂತಾನೆ ಕರೀತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. Display is also function, but here we have return type specifier. Int, char, float, at least void ಆದ್ರೂ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಈ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ return type specifier ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. This function will execute automatically when you want to create object of a class. Then it is not possible to refer the address of the constructor. Constructor memory ಯಾವ ಜಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫಿಕ್ ಆಗಿ ಐಡೆಂಟಿಫೈ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. By itself it will going to use new and delete operator whenever memory requirement is there. New ಮತ್ತು delete ಅನ್ನೋ ಆಪರೇಟರ್ ನ ಇಂಪ್ಲಿಸಿಟ್ ಆಗಿ ತನಗೆ ತಾನೇ ಕಾಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ ಮೆಮೊರಿ ರಿಕ್ವೈರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಇದ್ದಾಗ. New and delete operator. And if I want, I can able to define the statement of this constructor function both inside as well as outside also. Here when the command types of constructor, 3 types. First one is default constructor, second one parameterized constructor, third one copy constructor. Default constructor is nothing but which does not have any argument. A constructor which does not have any argument, then it can be called as default constructor, or we can say it as zero constructor also. When the command advantages of default constructor, here it is mainly used when you want to initialize all the objects by the same set of values. This will execute automatically when you have to create object of a class. When the command disadvantages, it cannot be used when you want to initialize each object by the different set of values. Whereas here this is a program to display the value of a and b by using default constructor. Here it is a default constructor. Default constructor because it does not have any argument. Here we are initializing a equals 10 and b equals 20. We are not doing any other calculation. Only thing we are initializing, and we are displaying the value of a and b. That is a regular function, whereas here it is a constructor function. If I want, I can write the statement of this constructor function as well as regular function inside the class as well as outside the class. Wherever you want, you can declare. To close the class, here we are going to put this flower bracket, then we will close with the semicolon. From this I can close the class. And this is the main program. If I want, I can create more than 2 objects also, but all the objects are initialized by the same set of values. Next class, I am going to explain regarding parameterized constructor, the types of parameterized constructor, how it can be invoked, whether implicit call, explicit call, on which format we have to execute that. Regarding that, you come to know in the next class. Thank you for all of you. Next class we will meet.